Once Latin America's richest country, today Venezuela tells a tale of how natural abundance, especially oil, can turn into a curse when mixed with corruption, authoritarianism, and geopolitical rivalry. The current US Venezuela tensions escalating into naval confrontations cannot be understood without tracing this long history from Spanish colonization to Simon Bolivar's independence wars, the oil boom, Hugo Chavez's rise, and Nicolas Maduro's authoritarian collapse. Let's break all of this down in today's episode of TAC Explained. Spanish explorers reached Venezuela's shores in 1498 during Columbus's third voyage. They named it Venezuela or Little Venice after seeing indigenous stilt houses. The independence struggle began in 1810 as Spain was weakened by Napoleon's invasion, and the First Republic of Venezuela was declared in 1811. But this collapsed very quickly under the resistance of royalist forces that were loyal to the Spanish crown. Into this turmoil stepped Simon Bolivar. Why he is important to this story will unfold in due time of this video. Born into wealth in Caracas and educated in Europe, Bolivar was inspired by the Enlightenment ideals of liberty and self-rule. Bolivar came to be known as the El Libertador, the Enlightenment, an idea popularized in the 18th century France but rooted in the 17th century. Thinkers like John Locke and Isaac Newton inspired revolutionaries from the US founding fathers to Bolivar himself. His decree of war to the death signaled the brutal nature of this conflict. After years of setbacks and exile, Bolivar's victory at the Battle of Carabobo in 1821 cemented Venezuelan independence. His dream of Latin American unity became a lasting part of Venezuelan identity. Now, this is what was later revived and leveraged by Hugo Chavez's Bolivarian Revolution. Coming to Venezuela's petroleum problem. Venezuela's modern petroleum age began in 1914 with the MG1 well in Lake Maracaibo. The real turning point came in 1922 when the La Rosa oil field erupted into a spectacular blowout with 100,000 barrels per day, shooting oil 200 feet into the air. Within a decade, Venezuela was the world's second largest producer, behind only the US. By 1929, Venezuela had become the world's leading oil exporter. And by the mid-1930s, oil took over its entire economy, making up over 90% of all of its exports. Agriculture and other industries collapsed as the booming oil sector caused the national currency, which is the Venezuelan Bolivar, to rise in value. This made the other non-oil products more expensive on the world markets. This is a classic case of the Dutch disease. Meanwhile, foreign companies such as Gulf, Shell and Standard Oil controlled nearly 98% of all of the oil production and funneled most of the profits abroad. The state of Venezuela gradually took back control. The 1943 hydrocarbons law forced a 50-50 profit split, massively boosting the government revenue. By 1976, President Carlos Andrés Pérez nationalized key industries including oil, consolidating state control under the institution BDVSA. Now, in 1960, Venezuela co-founded the OPEC, gaining influence over oil prices and production quotas. This power brought in further revenues and funded ambitious social programs and infrastructure projects. But the oil bonanza in the 1970s overwhelmed the country's governance structures, and by 1989, public anger had exploded into the Caracazo riots. Bloody protests against austerity that left hundreds dead. The old political order collapsed in the aftermath, paving way for Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez set into power in 1998. He promised to crush corruption, fight poverty, and rewrite the constitution. A former paratrooper who once had a failed coup, he rode high on oil prices to fund vast missions, and these programs delivered education, healthcare, and housing. Poverty fell, literacy rose, and Chavez built a fiercely loyal base. Now, in 2004, after surviving a recall vote, he declared his project the 21st Century Socialism. Industries were again nationalized, price and currency controls distorted the economy, and the PDVSA was gutted. Thousands of workers were laid off for going on strikes, and this left the PDVSA politicized and hollowed out. Meanwhile, Chavez's foreign policy turned sharply anti-US, aligning with Cuba, Iran, Russia, and China, while subsidizing oil exports through the Petrocaribe, a regional agreement supplying cheap Venezuelan oil to the Caribbean nations. Despite record revenues over the course of Chavez's presidency, which lasted until just 2013, strategic petroleum reserves dwindled and the government debt more than doubled. By the time of his death back in 2013, Venezuela was already suffering from inflation, shortages, and falling oil production. Comes in picture Nicolas Maduro, Chavez's chosen successor, who narrowly won the election in 2013. But unlike Chavez, Maduro lacked charisma, and oil prices collapsed just as he took office. The result? One of the worst peacetime economic implosions in modern history. From 2013 to 2023, living standards fell to 74%. Hyperinflation erased savings, basic goods vanished, nearly 8 million Venezuelans fled, creating the hemisphere's largest refugee crisis. Maduro clung to power by dismantling institutions. A rigged 2018 election, a loyalist Supreme Court, and a puppet Constituent Assembly left no room for opposition. The military was given sweeping control over ministries and state companies, ensuring loyalty through patronage and access to resources. Repression was so brutal that UN reports documented thousands of extrajudicial killings by security forces. Once US allies Venezuela and Washington turned hostile after Chavez took power in 1999. The 2002 coup attempt blamed on the US deepened this rift even further. By 2015, sanctions on the PDVSA cut Venezuela off from the global finance system, worsening the humanitarian crisis. In 2019, the US recognized Juan Guaido, the interim president. Now, Maduro responded by expelling diplomats and allying with Russia, China, and Iran. Tensions peaked in August 2025 when Trump sent 7 warships and 3 destroyers, an attack submarine, and F-35s to the Caribbean, claiming to fight drug trafficking. But analysts called it operational overkill. On September 2 this year, US forces struck a Venezuelan speedboat, killing 11 alleged gang members, and 2 more strikes continued to follow. Maduro called it an undeclared war, launched naval drills, trained civilian militias, and petitioned the UN. A September 6 letter offering dialogue was ignored by Trump while he escalated with a deportee ultimatum. But why does Venezuela matter in all of this? Venezuela's oil paradox is stark. 303 billion barrels, the world's largest proven reserves, yet its 2023 exports totaled only $4.05 billion, which is far below Saudi Arabia, amounting to $181 billion, and Russia's $122 billion. Mismanagement, aging infrastructure, and US sanctions limiting PDVSA's access to capital and markets prevented the country from fully capitalizing on its wealth. Dependence on oil exposes Venezuela to price shocks, foreign interference, and internal dysfunction, a classic resource curse. Globally, it's a prize and a target. US interventions are framed as democracy or anti-narcotics, but are strategically motivated by energy security. The clash between Maduro and Trump is not just about narcotics or democracy, it is, in a sense, petropolitics, where oil is both a weapon and a prize. That is all from us today. This is Garima and you're watching The Asian Chronicle.